On Saturday, May 17th, women and girls from across the Diocese of Virginia gathered at St. James the Less in Ashland for the Faith in Females event. The goal of this event was to connect and collaborate. Attendees spent time sharing their faith stories and learning about others' ministries and how to put collective energies together in future efforts and programs for women and girls. The Right Reverend Susan Goff, Bishop Suffragan, set the tone for the gathering with opening worship and reflection.
I want to follow up on some of what we have been talking about and the community aspect of this work that we've been called to by sharing two responses that I've heard to this day. One, and both of these responses were done in a very friendly, open way, not accusing, not negative. But the first one was, why are a group of women and girls getting together to talk about women and girls? I mean, we had a women's movement back in the 1970s. Some of us remember that and lived through it. Some of you weren't even born then. But the response of some people, or the question anyway, was, why do we need to do this? We've been there. We've done that. We have women who are leaders in politics now, women governors. We've had women as candidates for president. We have a woman bishop in the diocese. Why do we still need to be having these conversations? As I look around the room at the stations that are set up that we'll visit later, those stations themselves give part of the answer to the question. Our presence gives part of the answer. Yes, we as women in American society and in the church have come a long way. We have the possibilities now that were not open to some of the women from whom we read quotations earlier. But we know that we're not done. We know that we're not done in the church. We know that we're not done in American society. And we know, maybe more than ever before, the plight of women and girls in other parts of the world. If we didn't know it, if anyone in this country didn't know the suffering of women and girls, certainly the kidnapped Nigerian girls have brought that to everyone's attention. So we know that the work isn't done in this country or in the world. And so we're gathered today in worship and in sharing, in play and in work, to see how God is calling us so that we don't go to that special place in hell reserved for women who don't help other women, as Madeleine Albright put it, but so that we're part of the solution. And then the other question that I heard, again, friendly question, no hostility, no anger to it, but maybe some confusion, is why is this group only for women? Why are you only inviting women and girls to gather? How would you feel if there were a meeting called and only men and boys were allowed to go? Okay, you're all where I was. I said, yeah, bring it on. If a group of men and boys are going to get together and talk about issues in our society that face men and boys and that face women and girls, please, please do it. We have such a very important sense in our church and in our world today that inclusion is important. We believe that. We know that. And exclusion and segregation have done harm. But meeting only as women and girls, or meeting only as men and boys, or meeting only as people of a certain age, or people of a particular interest, that's not exclusion. That's not segregation. That's doing the work that we need to do in smaller groups so that we can serve each other in that broader context. So my response to that question was like yours. Yeah, bring it on. Let's get a group of men and boys together to talk about these issues, and a group of women and girls. And then let's bring them all together when the time is right so that we can all be a part of this work. The work goes on. It involves us all. And however we are called, whatever groups that we are called to address this, well and good.
The group heard about the girls' group and radio show out of St. George's Church in Fredericksburg, plus updates from the Women to Women Congo Partnership, the Episcopal Church Women's work against human trafficking, the Dadas and Design Partnership between women in Virginia and central Tanzania, and many more. Participants were eager to plan next steps for girls and women's ministries in the Diocese of Virginia, with a focus on continuing conversation.
I'm so grateful to all of you for being here today, for sharing, for joining in the worship, for joining in the stations, and especially I welcome you to see what might come next. You know, we don't know what's going to happen at 2 o'clock when we leave here today. But I believe that the Holy Spirit's up to something. I think we all believe that, or we wouldn't be here. So part of the fun is going to be seeing what this breaks open today for women and girls, for men and boys, for God's people around the world.